We're going to talk about hate crimes and the KKK. Hate crimes, let's start with that, a general overview and how the numbers that we see of hate crimes today. Let's start with our definition. This is the simplest definition I can find for you guys. A crime in which the motive is because a person is different than you. Race, gender, sexual orientation, religion. It could be political. As always, word we always come back to this year is the word motive. The motive is the reason you do something. So if I commit a crime against someone based on any of these things, in which my motive is because they're different than me, then it would be a hate crime. For instance, let's say robbery. Let's say I break into someone's house and steal their TV and their jewelry just because I want money. That wouldn't be a hate crime. But if I targeted someone and broke into their house and took the same things, and my reason is because I don't like them because of their race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, etc., then that would be a hate crime. Also today, it's not on this PowerPoint, but I believe most states, if not all states, have hate crime laws. So in court, if it can be proven that your motive was hate, then if found guilty, the punishment is more severe. You're going to spend more time in prison. These are from 2019. FBI compiles and puts out these statistics. In 2020, I didn't put it up here, but it's basically the same. These categories don't change a ton, but you can see over half of all hate crimes have to do with race, ethnicity, or ancestry, country of origin. About 20% religion. Sexual orientation is about 16%. Gender identity, disability, gender, smaller amounts. And this next one is showing us hate crimes over time. And at first, it seems like the numbers stay fairly consistent. The graph doesn't seem to be bouncing up and down too much. But when we look at it, in 2008, 7,700 hate crimes. 2014, 5,400. So that's a drop of, what's my math here, 2,300. If my math is right, that's 25% drop. But then we see an increase. I looked it up for 2020. It was over 8,000. So as of 2020, it was the highest number of hate crimes since 2007. So they are increasing. So we will answer all of these questions in just a second. Ku Klux Klan. So this is an organization. It is still around today. They're not in the news all that much anymore. There are other. The KKK would fall under the category of a hate group or a white supremacy group. It's not as popular, for lack of better words, today. There are other white supremacy groups that maybe are in the news a little bit more. But historically, the KKK started in this time period that we're talking about. It was formed because some whites were angry about losing power. So almost immediately after the Civil War, if I remember the story correctly, there were 4 men from Tennessee, and they all had fought in the Civil War on the Confederate side. And they began to think that whites in the South are going to lose power. As we've talked about throughout this unit, African Americans are getting more and more power. 13th Amendment, no more slavery. They start to get voting rights. They're able to do, in some cases, the jobs they want to do. So historically, this was the reason it was formed. The main goals of the KKK, and these change over time. The main goals of the KKK back then were twofold: to prevent freedmen from voting and to keep them from holding political office. So they are completely going after anything dealing with politics. They didn't want freedmen voting or running for office. How did they accomplish their goals? They used a bunch of different tactics, I guess, if you will: threats, intimidation, violence, murder, lynchings. Lynchings, by definition, lynching is to hang someone, usually by a group of people. I'll show you a picture of some KKK members from this time period in just a second. And you might be familiar with this. The outfits they wear, uniforms, I don't know what the proper word is, but they would cover themselves from head to toe with white sheets and to remain anonymous, so no one knows that they are a part of the Klan. Here's another picture. This one's a little bit later. That one looks to be 1913 or 1943, somewhere in there. But over time, the Klan has kind of had these periods of time that they've been really present. They're in the news a lot, and then they kind of fade away for a while, and then something will happen, and you'll hear more about them. In recent years, we haven't heard about the Klan as much. I don't feel, at least not in the news. It doesn't mean that the organization no longer exists. And also, as I mentioned, there's other groups out there that have some of the same goals and opinions, if you will. So a couple of quotes. These are from Friedman. I'm going to assume they were in the South. It says, if you got so you made some good money and had a good farm, the Ku Klux come and murder you. The government built the colored people's schoolhouses, and the Ku Klux went to work and burned them down. They go to jails and take the colored men out, knock their brains out, and break their necks and throw them in the river. Men you thought were your friends was Ku Kluxes. You deal with them in the stores at daytime, and at night they come out to your house and kill you. Another one says, no one knew when the Klux coming. All of a sudden up they gallop on horses, all covered with hoods, and burst right into the house. I'd hear them coming when they hit the lane, and I'd holler, the Klux is coming. It was my job after dark listening for the Klux. Then I got under the bed. So obviously Freedmen were affected and scared by the KKK. Congress did kind of react to this. In 1870 and 1871, they passed what were known as the KKK Acts, which banned or barred the use of force against voters, and this was targeted at the KKK. I put up here, while this was a step in the right direction, what was the problem with this? There's nothing wrong with the law. Laws are only good if enforced, and in the South, where these intimidation, these threats, these killings were happening, it's up to state and local law enforcement agencies to enforce the law. And in most cases, the southern states don't enforce them. The reality of this was sometimes your local sheriff or your local police department, they were members of the KKK at the same time. So